Hello everyone and thank you for joining me. This is Sierra from Sierra T Designs, and today we're going to do a watercolor painting that I was inspired to make because of a book that I recently read. So we're going to get started with cut down watercolor paper. It's cut down to 2.5 by 3.5 inches because this is an artist trading card that I'm making. And I'm sticking it down to a hardboard using some washi tape because washi tape is a very low tack tape and it's less likely to rip up your paper after you've finished your painting and you remove it. And it also, attaching it to a hardboard does help with any kind of paper warping or any issues you're going to have with that kind of the wetness on top of the paper. I have Canson watercolor paper here, but you could easily use any watercolor paper that you have on hand. The paper, as long as it's watercolor paper, doesn't really matter. You could use regular paper as long as you used heavy cardstock that could take quite a bit of water, but I would really suggest investing in some watercolor paper. There's some really inexpensive water. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the novel that I was inspired by. It's a novel by Vera Nazarian, and it's called the Atlantis Grail series. And in it, an Earth person ends up leaving Earth because of traumatic incidents. I don't want to ruin the novel for you, so just in case you're an avid reader as I am. But I just was really inspired by when she was leaving Earth on a ship, and she was watching the sun get smaller and smaller as she was leaving Earth. And I just was really inspired about what the sun would look like if you could see stars around it. Because on Earth, of course, the sun is bright and you can't see the sun or the stars when the sun is out. So I just was really inspired by that thought. And this is what kind of stemmed this art painting here. So I'll walk you through what I'm doing here. So I've taken a small a circle from the We Are Memory Keepers nested circle dies, and I'm just tracing around the outside of it on my watercolor paper with a pencil. And then I take my eraser and just lightly erase the pencil markings because I don't want that to be trapped under my watercolor. I will link the novels underneath the description card in the video here if you're interested in checking out the books. And if you have any recommendations for me, please let me know. I'm a very avid reader and I'd love to know what's out there and what's good to read right now. So I did speed this video up a fair amount. The painting process is at about 3 times the speed I actually paint at. I don't think you guys want to sit here and watch me paint for about an hour, so I did speed that up. So right here I'm taking some drawing gum and a paintbrush, and I'm just lightly going around the outside along the line of the circle. And there you can see one of my kittens, Ember, trying to help me, which is really sweet of her. So I'm just going to go around the outside of the circle there to create a line so that the paint cannot cross that line into where I want my sun to be. Because of course I want the sky to be dark behind it. And a trick that I actually learned from Christina Warner about using drawing gum is if you put a little bit of dishwashing soap on your paintbrush, it helps you remove the drawing gum later as it dries fairly quickly as you go, and that just saves your paintbrush from being ruined because of the drawing gum. I would suggest washing your brush the minute that you're done, however, because if it does dry, it can get hard. I mean, it does come off, but I would suggest that you wash it quite quickly once you're finished using the drawing gum on the image. So we're going to get into the painting process here pretty quick. And I'm going to turn on some music and let you guys just enjoy the painting process. There's not much to talk about. I paint the background black, and then I think I do 1 or 2 layers of the black, and then I remove the drawing gum and paint the suns yellow. So there's not too much to go over, so I'm just going to turn on a little bit of music so you can enjoy the painting process. Thanks, guys. once the painting process was finished, I took the same circle die I used to draw the circle and cut out some paper masks. This is just plain cardstock that I put on top of the sun so that I could flick on some stars. I started off with Inkon3's Liquid Pixie dust, put it on an acrylic block, and used a paintbrush to splatter it on. Then I took some Liquitex in titanium white, used the same acrylic block and to thin down its consistency so that I could splatter the white on to add more stars. I like the look of a messy background, so I like to add quite a few stars. And I did also let the yellow of the sun mix in a little bit with the black background to try to kind of make a movement effect, as the sun is a ball of fire, so the fire would shift around like to the eye. So I did try for that effect. I don't know if it comes across really in the pictures. You could let me know what you think, but that was what I was going for. I then added some gold Liquitex acrylic paint, added some water to it, mixed it up, and I will splash that on the background as well, just to add a little more interest than just white dots and glittery dots. I'm not sure if you can really see the pixie dust once it's sprayed on. I will lift the cards up and tip them into the light so that you can try to kind of see it, and you can tell me if you can really even tell in the background. In person, you can absolutely tell, but in the images here, so here we go with the big reveal. I'm going to remove the washi tape from the paper, and you can see that I did leave a little white border along both edges of all the edges of the cards on both cards. And if you're really careful and you pull the tape back on itself, like you kind of fold it over and then pull slowly, I find that it's less likely to rip your paper. Whereas if you pull quickly or you don't fold it back on itself, I find that it starts to rip up the paper, even something as low tack as washi tape. I've had the same problem with purple tape actually. So if you guys have a low tack tape that seems to not do this, please let me know, because I'm struggling quite a bit not to have it rip. Even using these methods, I still think that in this last one, it did actually rip up a little bit of the top layer of my paper. I have yet to find a tape that doesn't do that at all. So here I'm going to lift the images up, and hopefully you can see a bit of that Inkon3 Pixie dust in the light there. There's just like a bit of a pearlescent sheen to the background that I just think adds a nice little bit of texture. So to finish it off here, I'm going to take my white Jelly Roll pen and I'm going to add a little star detailing just to give it a little bit more star-like effect. Like I just draw little crosses or little X's to kind of add a little bit more in the white there. And any edges that bled a little bit, I just clean it up with my white gel pen a little bit. And the last thing we're going to do is add a little bit of Nuvo Crystal drops in Mountain Dew. It's a clear, milky kind of finish. It dries pretty much clear, but it just kind of makes it a little bit glossy when it's dry. So they go on milky, but once they're dry, they just look a bit glossy and they kind of pull forward a little bit of the background, which I think just adds another layer of texture, which can just be nice when it's a very flat drawing. There's not a lot of shading or anything to this. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a comment or give me a like. If you have any advice or comments or anything that you think I could work on, please let me know. This is my 4th video and I'm learning as I go, so it's definitely a learning experience. So if you enjoyed this, please subscribe. I make a new video and I put it up every Monday. And I'd love to have you back and I'd love to hear what you think. Thank you so much, guys. Bye-bye.